All right, I've got a couple. They're 61 and 60 years old. They have $375,000 saved for retirement. They're asking the question, can we retire? When can we retire? And how much money do we need saved to retire? That's what we're going to get in today. Me and Matt are going to go through Your Financial EKG for you. Matt, let's go.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Welcome, everybody. This is Tom and Shannon. So Tom works for Georgia Pacific, and he is currently 61, wants to retire at 63. Shannon is working and wants to retire at 62. We did a plan for them. And the funny thing is, everything was fine. They were comfortable with it until Tom calls me a couple of months later and says, I lost my job. And then we had to go back and refigure a couple of additional scenarios, which is what we do to help our clients within a particular time frame. We did get a couple of things ironed out for him to make them comfortable going through retirement. So let's go through this. So we've got the income for Tom. Original plan is $113,000, wanting to retire at 63. So in 2026, Shannon was making $6,000 annually, wanted to retire in 2026, a couple of months later. On the Social Security side of things, they're both going to start their Social Security at the point that they retire. So we have this feature here. For those of you that watch the videos, you've seen this before. At full retirement age, Tom is here at $3,253. Shannon is here at $1,634. Now, if they take it early, as you realize, they're going to get a little bit of a haircut. So we'll see that reflected here, and we can adjust our time of when we want to take it. We can optimize it. There's a handful of things that we can do. In this scenario, we're just starting right off with the income because their concern was, I want to have a guaranteed stream of income. They were in fear for not having income.
Yeah, and keep in mind with Social Security, like Matt said, if you take it early, like at 62, if you're born after the year 1960, you get 70% of your benefit. Now, for each client, it's important that we go through the EKG to understand exactly when Social Security makes sense optimally for your plan, but also when it makes sense optimally personally. A lot of my clients have a fear about Social Security. Sometimes longevity is a concern. They say, hey, if I'm going to die early, or if my parents didn't live past their 80s, I want to take as much benefit as I possibly can now. Or they'll look at the fiscal deficit and say, hey, I see that we're going to be $20 trillion in debt. I want to take Social Security now. It's my money. I've paid into it. We also, in certain situations, make it a game time decision. Matt and I will look at a client and say, hey, listen, you've got about 2, 3, 4 years before you get to Social Security. I don't know what the stock market's going to do between now and then. I don't know what your asset value is going to be. So we'll have to do a game time decision. Do we do a pinch hitter and call in Social Security when you retire? Or do we live off our investments because the market's done really well? So sometimes, Matt, like you've talked about, it's kind of this song and dance and saying, okay, how's the market done and when do we claim Social Security benefits?
So Tom and Shannon, neither one of them have a pension. Getting right back into it. Now, this is our income tab. We're going to jump over here to the asset tab, and we're going to take a look at where we are for assets. So here we can see, as Drew touched on earlier, at this point, we're at 378, and they're trying to get to retirement next year. So they are putting some money away. Here Tom has a 401k. This is the current employer. There's $54,000 in there. He is currently making contributions into his 401k. He has a previous employer 401k with $256,800. Obviously not making contributions into that one. Shannon has a Roth IRA with $33,300, and she is making contributions into that. And then she also has a traditional IRA with $16,000, and then they have a joint savings account with $18,000. So that's kind of how they're situated now. They do own a home. The value of it is $293,000. And then as we can see down here, we don't have any annuities. If they did, this is where it would be listed.
So right here, if you can look, you see tax analysis where Matt's mouse pointer is, they've got 86% of their money is what we would call qualified. You might be thinking, what is qualified money? 86% of Tom and Shannon's money is pre-tax, meaning somebody is going to take some taxes from this. Now, they live in the great state of Texas. God bless Texas, right? It actually, the country of Texas, as we should say, right? So they won't have a state tax. But from a federal level, if you take 86% of their money, right? Scroll back up real quick, Matt, to the assets. Let's add this up. I'll just use my calculator, makes it easy. We've got 54,000, 256,000. So, and then Shannon's got 16 there. So we've got $326,000 that is going to have tax associated with it. So let's just use the federal levels where we're at today. Let's say 20% of that. That's $65,000 in taxes. So essentially, you could say out of their total assets or out of their total IRA assets, 65,000 of that's Uncle Sam's. So we've got to navigate that for them when it comes to their income distributions, and we'll get to that.
So now we're going to take a peek at where we are with expenses. So here we're seeing their current monthly expenses are $5,094. They do have a mortgage on the home to be paid off in 2051. They do have taxes and insurance on the home. The baseline expenses, this number, for those of you who aren't familiar, is where we kind of include all of the things that are regular monthly items, don't really fluctuate that much. It's pretty consistent. It's not something that's going to get paid off like a car or a credit card. We'll list those items out individually. So we do have credit cards here of $500. Obviously, it's going to be paid off rather quickly. So then there it is. Health insurance is something that we will add in here. Sometimes people have an advantage plan. Sometimes they'll have a supplement. Sometimes the pension, if you happen to be an individual that has one, that can be included sometimes as the secondary. So we kind of list that out separately so that we can adjust those numbers. Yeah. Even though it's going to be a continual thing, like I just said, we don't wrap it necessarily into the baseline because it can change depending upon what we select.
One of the things that we do with our clients when it comes to their health insurance, especially, you remember you've got ACA, which is pre-65, and then you've got Medicare post-65. So Matt's talking post-65 Medicare. One of the things that we do for our clients is every year as they're going into their Medicare plan, we want to make sure, one, that if they're on a supplement, that their premiums are still the same, or if they do increase, we update their EKG for that increase. That's why we do the quarterly reviews with our clients for the EKG to make sure, hey, has your baseline expenses changed? Has your health insurance expenses changed? Have you spent more on travel, less on travel? Let's keep this updated because we want to make sure that we're on the right glide path. We're on the right track as we go through this. Now, listen, if you want a financial EKG, if you want to meet with Matt or myself, go to the description below. We've got a great link there. You just click that link. You get right on our calendar. Also, you could get the first 2 chapters of my new book for free. Go to the description, click on that, and you can download that and read that. But we talk about expenses in that book. The thing that is critical to your retirement is not necessarily how much money you have saved. We've talked about this on our channel a ton. It's not about how much you have saved, but it's how much you spend. You might have $1 million, but you might spend $100,000 a year and you are on a glide path to run out. Or you might have $300,000 and understand when you're going to claim Social Security, and you might spend another 25 on top of that, and you might never run out of money. It's all about cash flow. Cash is king, little k. Jesus is the real king. Cash is the little king. And so that's why we're looking at here on the expenses, and that's why we want to keep this updated.
That's a great point when you talk about the difference between someone with, more assets than someone else. But one of the biggest things is, like you were saying is how you spend it, what your expenses are. And this is one area that's highlighted for a lot of clients don't realize what they're actually spending. So this is an eye opener, kind of like a tool to help you focus for a lot of folks. Some folks are dead on. They use, spreadsheet or what have you, but it's good. We walk through it. It takes a little bit of time, but this is a helpful tool. So for these folks, we are including some travel for them as well. And typically, people aren't going to be traveling into their 90s. So we'll run that out at some point. And again, some of these numbers are just what we feel at this point. We're trying to shoot and be a little bit conservative. We want to make sure that we're getting in the fun and the enjoyment of retirement that we want. But we also want to be realistic and realize that, we're not traveling overseas every single year when you're 92 years old, right? For most people. Some people do. But we'll put a date in to end it here, just like we would for a credit card or a mortgage. So I'm just pointing that out to you.
Difference with the travel and the mortgage, though, is that we do put inflation on the travel, because the cost of airline tickets today is different from cost of airline tickets 2 years from now. But the mortgage never changes. Now, your taxes and insurance inside the mortgage will change, and we usually separate that out. You can see that on line number 2 for Matt. That has inflation. But the mortgage, the amortization changes for principal and interest, but there's no inflation on that. And that's one of the biggest mistakes I see when we're running through expenses with clients is they'll send me their spreadsheet and they'll put 3% inflation on everything. And I'm going, wait a sec, your mortgage, your credit card debt, your student loan debt, none of that has inflation on it. And so we've got to kind of work through this to say, what is your individualized inflation rate? You can see for Tom and Shannon Oprah up there, it's 2.21%. Well, that's their individualized inflation rate. It's not 3.26, which is the 114-year average. It's individualized for them. And that's what we're trying to get. With the Your Financial EKG, we're trying to say, what is the individualized inflation rate for this couple, for you, right? And we'll get to a point where we'll say, what's the rate of return you need to earn on your investments in order to make this last? It's not about others, it's about you. And that's why we call it a your plan.
Exactly. Okay. They also have life insurance here and a fifth wheel, including storage. So we've got those pieces in here, again, with end dates on them. Now we're going to come over here to our cash flow tab. This is where we can show a number of different things, money coming in, money going out. In this particular case, we're showing them purchasing a new car in 2029 and then another new car in 2036. Money going out. These are the way that they handle their finances is they typically will finance their vehicles. So we're showing them financing it over a period of time with a $500 payment, and then they'll just fit the car to match that particular amount. So here we are in our pre-retirement tab. Pre-retirement, meaning we haven't yet retired, we are still working. So as we go through here, again, we can see where we are today at this $378,000. And when we get to retirement, they're at $448,000. So we're almost at $450,000 at the point that we retire. And then at the top, what we're seeing, we're kind of cheating and looking into the next tab, which is showing us, hey, our money's going to last until we're 97 and 96.
That's pretty good.
It is pretty good.
They have $450,000 projected out with a 5% rate of return, right? We're doing a very low conservative rate of return on our investment. So with the contributions, with the market rate of return, now they could get more than that. We could get 7 or
4. Yeah, they're at 4.
So they're even more. So you're even being, you're like the tortoise, and I'm kind of like the tortoise with a little bit of a rocket because I go to 5 and you go to 4. So at $450,000, with the spending that we just went through, understanding when we're going to claim Social Security, they run out of money at 97 and 96. So this, I think what I love about the financial EKG and what I love about what we do is that you don't have to have $3 million. Susie Orman's like, you got to have $3 million to retire. And the guy working at Georgia Pacific, who's putting in the hours, who's putting in the long days, he's never going to have $3 million unless he wins the Georgia lottery or the Texas lottery or whatever. Well, for Tom and Shannon, they've worked hard. They've saved. They understand their spending. And before we get to the retirement tab to go through all this, we can see at $450,000, they're going to run out at 97 and 96. Plus, they'll still have Social Security in their house. So to me, I look at that and go, that gives me some confidence. That gives me some freedom to know that I'm going to be okay. What we're trying to do with Tom and Shannon is just get a plan that gets us to a starting point, gives them confidence as they go over the next few years before they step into retirement, and allows us as the financial advisors to create a baseline and then work with that baseline. Are these plans perfect? No. Is the stock market perfect? Is inflation perfect? No. But what we've done is we've created the baseline that we can start working with. Tom and Shannon might get to 63 years old and they might say, hey, we can't retire because of this, and this. Something might have changed. And as we're adjusting it, they might have to work a little longer. Tom said he's going to work at Lowe's. But for you and your individualized plan, we want to have a baseline, somewhere to start. And then from there, we can adjust as time. The worst thing is we go at 65 years old, we go, hey, we're going to retire. And then all of a sudden we can't. At least for Tom and Shannon, we now know, hey, this is what has to happen for us to get to where we want to be. And if we don't, we know what steps we need to take. When do we need to claim Social Security? Do I need to work a little bit part-time? Should we cut out expenses? And that is what formulates the full Your Financial EKG. And listen, if you want to meet with us, go to the description below, click on the calendar link, get on our calendar. Let's build out a Your Financial EKG for you. All right. Well, hey, thank you so much for watching Matt and I. We hope you've enjoyed it. God bless. Bye-bye.